Hi everyone, welcome back to the second part of the session on Max Weber. In the first part, we have focused on his personal life, career, theory of authority, and legitimacy. In the second part, we will be discussing about the Weberian model of bureaucracy. For those who have not subscribed the channel, kindly subscribe the channel and press the bell button so that you can get further notifications about the sessions dealt in this channel. Also, please like the sessions if you are pleased, and comments and suggestions are welcomed for better sessions in future. The Bavarian model of bureaucracy is considered to be the better explanation for the concept of bureaucracy. As a student of political science or public administration, we all will be aware about the concepts of bureaucracy. The word bureaucracy is derived from a French word and was coined by a French economist Garnet in the first half of 18th century. Bureaucracy is a system in which a country or an organization are controlled or managed by a large number of officials who follow certain rules and regulations for the better performance of the organization or the system. It was for the first time the concept of bureaucracy was systematically studied by a scholar, and it was Max Weber who studied the entire concept of bureaucracy. The Weberian model particularly studied about the concepts and the characteristics of bureaucracy. The Weberian model considered to be the source, inspiration, base, and reference for the modern bureaucracy, as it systematically dealt with the concept. The peculiarity of the Weberian model of bureaucracy is that Max Weber has never defined the concept bureaucracy. Rather, he described about the characteristics of bureaucracy. He considered bureaucracy as an administrative body of appointed officials and gave more importance to the appointed officials and never considered the elected one as a part of bureaucracy. Weber considered bureaucracy into two types. First one as the patrimonial bureaucracy, where the traditional and the charismatic type of authority was the part. In the patrimonial bureaucracy is the one which is based on certain traditions or customs, or based on the qualities of the person who allocates the authorities. Whereas the second one, legal rational bureaucracy, are the one which are based on certain rules and regulations or certain procedures, and the authorities are allocated through the appointed authorities based on these code or regulations. The Weberian model of bureaucracy is particularly based on legal rational bureaucracy, where the importance is given to the rules and regulations framed, and the entire structure of the bureaucracy will be based on the rules and regulations thus framed. Max Weber believed that legitimacy is the basis for establishing authority. The legitimacy of the authority depends on five important aspects. The first one, establishing a legal code or procedure so that all the members of the organizations will be bounded towards the particular legal code framed. Second one, framing a legal system so that all the aspects of the organization will be under the purview of the particular systems, and the entire things happening inside the system will be based on the particular rules and regulations framed. The third one, the legal code thus framed will be for all the persons who are there in the system, including the person who are exercising the authority. The authority can only work under the purview of the codes and regulations thus framed and cannot wither away from the rules and regulations. The fourth one points on the persons who exercise or who establish the laws and regulations. They are also bonded under the purview of these laws and regulations and cannot work beyond the purview of the laws and regulations thus framed and established. And finally, about the obedience towards the authority is considered to be the most mandatory thing in establishing the legal aspects because the authority should be respected and obeyed by all in the organizations. But the only thing is that the authority is completely bonded towards the legal codes and procedures established in the system. Max Weber, in framing the model for bureaucracy, has analyzed the historical and technical factors to frame or to attribute the system and how the system is going to work in the organization. He made the legal, rational, bureaucratic system as a continuous one because it never stops at a point. It is a continuous process and it will continue because here the system is not depending on a particular person, rather, the system is depending upon certain rules and regulations. So, if a person gets retired or move away from that position, another person will occupy the position, and thus the system will continue its cycle. Here, the powers and functions of the authority is decided by the responsibility held by the authority and not by the person who is carrying the authority. The entire organization is the part of the authority from the lower to the higher or from the higher to the lower are the essential parts of the authority and none of these can be excluded from the entire hierarchical pattern because the entire bureaucratical structure works only with the complete cooperation among the system. The authorities or the administrative structures will be based on certain written documents because written documents makes it more viable because the individual interest or vested interest of a particular person cannot be indulged into the activities of the hierarchy. So when a written procedure is there, the authority can only perform based on those procedures and he cannot wither away from that rules and regulations by incorporating his personal interest or vested interest to the establishment of the authority. Elements of Weberian model of bureaucracy. Max Weber, as we discussed, always gave trust to the legal rational bureaucracy as the most appropriate and the most suitable form of bureaucratic model. He was in the view that the legal rational model cannot be replaced by any other model because it is the apted one, very suited for an organization or a government to perform its duties. For the better performance or the better devolution of the bureaucratical model, Weber has came up with five important elements. So now we are going to discuss about the five elements which was classified by Weber in his Weberian model of bureaucracy. The first one is the impersonal order. So in the Weber's ideal type of bureaucracy, the most thought-provoking idea was his concept of impersonal order. It is very particular that in a bureaucratical model there should not be any importance to a person. The entire system, the entire organization, or the entire system of administration should not vest upon a personal interest of a person. It should be free from the personal idea. The commands or the authorities issued by a person should not be from his personal mind, but it should be based on a legal, rational manner. Only he should give importance to the rules and regulations, and it is not up to a person, but it will be up to certain code or certain laws framed by the entire system. The second most important element in the Weberian model of bureaucracy is the rules. So, as we said, in a legal rational model, the most importance is given to the rules that is framed or that is established to run the organization or the government. As we discussed, impersonal order depends upon certain rules and regulations. There is no importance to the person but to the rules. So rules are very important conditions that is very necessary to establish a very systematic bureaucratic system. Here the implementation or the conductions of the rules and regulations is very important, that it should be given to a trained or a specialized person so that the devolution of authority will happen in a fair manner. All the activities of the organization or the government should be based on that rules only, and none cannot wither away from that rule or go beyond that rule. The third most important element, as mentioned by Max Weber, was the sphere of competence. When a competence is there, then there will be better results in the selection of certain activities. Here, why Max Weber gave importance to sphere of competence is because to have a systematic approach in the division of labor. In a bureaucracy or in an activities of an organization or a government, there will be many different types of departments. So in each department, the bureaucrat or the person who authorized that power should be in a position to compete himself for that position. All the tasks he used to take should be have that effective manner in reaching the goals of the organization. So sphere of competence is a very important aspect in terms to this bureaucratical model, because if the authority who is devoluting the power is not in a position to compete himself, then that can result in the poor performance of the organization. The fourth element is hierarchy. Max Weber views that the organizational principles or activities should be based on the structure of hierarchy. To him, to have a better performance in an organization, there should be a structure where the supremacy of the authority is with an higher official. The lower officials or the lower office should be in a position to report to the higher one, and the higher one should be the one who allocate the works and activities to the lower one. So for the better performance of the bureaucratical model, this hierarchical pattern should be in an excellent way. If the structure of that hierarchy is disturbed in any manner, the entire performance will be affected. The authorities from higher to lower and the reporting from lower to higher should be in a perfect manner. Fifth one, personal and public act. In the Weberian model, he demands that the persons who occupy the position of authority should be in a position to keep away themselves from any sort of activities which is against their morality. They should not misuse their positions because they are the authority who are in a position to empower, envisage, and allocate the power to the organization. They should keep themselves away from any sort of allegations, and necessarily checks and balances should be there frequently to analyze whether the authorities or the bureaucrats are misusing their positions. The sixth element is written document. The last and most important principles in the Weberian model of bureaucracy is about the written documents. Max Weber was very particular that all the activities happening in an organization should be documented in written format. The written format envisages the organization to be more accountable and also makes them to use these written documents for future references. The Bavarian model of bureaucracy gives more importance to the allocation of tasks to technically qualified officials. The technically qualified officials are being allocated because the activities happening inside the organization should be handled in a professional manner. And moreover, proper remunerations should be given to the persons who are working for the organizations. The criteria like better salaries, full-time work, promotions, timely based promotions, and of course obedience and systematic discipline is very essential in the Weberian model because these things are very essential for the efficiency and effectiveness of the organization. Weber always gives importance to monocratic bureaucracy because in a monocratic bureaucratic organization, the power exercising or allocating authority will be concentrated on a single person, and that can give more efficiency to the entire organization as it will avoid any sorts of confusions in the structure of hierarchy. Critics of Weberian model. The Weberian model of bureaucracy was criticized by many thinkers. The criticisms against the model can be allocated into three main points. First one is rationality of the model. Second one, sustainability of the model in different places. Third one, reliability of the model to deal with the changing time. So according to sociologists like Robert Merton, they focused on the structure of the theory. The Weberian model gives importance to the hierarchical pattern, where scholars like Merton doubtfully looked into that aspect, whether this hierarchical pattern can affect in the performance of the bureaucracy. Philip Stelznig also points out the division of functions, how it can be allocated or how it can be articulated in an organization. He doubts that when the division of works are done in an organization, it can create certain problems and conflicts inside the organization. The structure which incorporate the hierarchy and division of labor was criticized by the bureaucrats can make their vested interest in the organizational structure. So this was the main criticism against the structure or the model of bureaucracy where the Weberian model faced. The rationality was there, but the structure of hierarchy or the sustainability of that hierarchical model was doubtfully criticized by the thinkers. The thinkers like Talcott Parson was also doubtful about the Weberian model, about the structure of the model. In the Weberian model, the superiors are getting more powers in allocating the authority, whereas there will be higher professional skilled employees. So when it comes between the higher authority and higher professional skills, he doubts that there can be some chances for conflicts between both these things. So the structure itself is under the purview of some conflicts. Alvin Goldner also questions about the model, about the structure, about the rules and regulations, because it can be an apted one for the organization, but when it comes outside the organization, how this model is going to compete with the outside world, that was the thing which was doubted by Alvin. Peter Blau regards the model that it can be effective in certain places, but it cannot be effective in all the places, because from place to place the structure or the attitude or the way how the people behaves can change. So this model cannot be suitable for the entire globe, but it can be suitable for certain places. That was the idea which was also there with Robert Pretis, where he regards the Weberian model as best or suited for the Western world, but he never regards it as a best or an apt model for non-Western conditions. So these were the criticisms which the Weberian model of bureaucracy faced. So about the structure, about the timely changes, and about the rationality. So these three things were criticized by the thinkers about the Weberian model of bureaucracy. Even though many scholars criticize the Weberian model and its structures, adaptability or reliability, the model is there for a long time. And even though this model is having many negatives and positives, this model has been there in the administrative structure or the bureaucratical structure for decades, and it is not able to think beyond this model. Even though the elements of efficiency was omitted in this model, the modern bureaucracies cannot omit the Weberian model while considering the bureaucratical structure. The regal rationality is the main aspect which makes the model itself as an unique one in comparing with the other theories or principles. The Weberian model stresses more on the legal rational authority, which is the most appropriate one for the present modern day governments or organizations. Even though the Weberian model has negatives and positive features, or we can say that it was a model which was framed on the German conditions, but still this model stands as a framework for the bureaucratical system. And this model can be a immortal one which will be there in the structure of bureaucratical model. As long as the bureaucratical model exists, the Bavarian model of bureaucracy will be there as the main principle of the topic bureaucracy. The Bavarian model